today's session, we're just going to very quickly go over a few different parts of percentages, not so much the basic skills of just finding a percentage, but more, when we need to increase or decrease amounts, calculating percentage change, percentage error, and then a little bit of exam practice. Okay, so I'm going to go pretty quick today. Won't keep you for too long. Okay, so we're going to start by increasing an amount by a percentage. So question here, Gabriel's salary is £24,500. Next year, he is due to get a 9% increase. What will his new salary be? Okay, so the point of these the point of this example is more just as a reminder that when you are increasing, you need to add the percentage on to 100%. Okay. You can of course change this to a multiplier. So ultimately, what we're doing is 24,000 multiplied by 109%. We can write this as 1.09. Pop that into your calculator, and you would get 26,705. Okay, so just remember, if you are increasing something by a percentage, your new amount should definitely be higher than the amount that you started with. Okay, so just remember, you are adding on to 100%. Your multiplier should be greater than 1 if you are increasing. Okay, straight on to an example of decreasing. So this time we have a question. Iris spends £40 a month on water. By changing company, Iris can save 16%. How much would Iris pay each month? So again, different ways to do this. You could go ahead and calculate what 16% is and then subtract it from 40. But honestly, you just want to be using a quicker method. So we're going to multiply by 100%, take away the 16%. As extended students, you'd probably be able to do that pretty quickly. So multiplying by 84%, which as a decimal is 0.84, and then pop that into your calculator, and you would get £33.60. Okay, so just remember your multiplier method, nice and quick. Okay, right, on to percentage change. So sometimes we can be asked to work out what the percentage change has been. Now, these formulas are not given to you, okay, but we of course can have percentage increase or decrease, and you just need to learn the order of things. Okay, so for increase, new value, subtract the initial, all divided by the initial, multiplied by 100. Okay, so if we start with this first question, we want to work out the percentage change from 45 feet to 92 feet. Okay, so this of course is increasing. So we're using our increase formula. So our new value would be 92. We're going to subtract the initial, which is where we started. So at 45, you're going to divide that by the initial value of 45 and then multiply by 100 to find the percentage. Okay, pop that into your calculator and you would get 104%. Okay, on to the next one. So this time we're going from 362 meters to 156 meters. So I already know that this is a decrease. Okay, the amount is going down. So I'm going to use my percentage decrease formula. So the initial value is 362. Okay, we are subtracting the new value of 156. And we are dividing by the initial, which was 362. Again, multiplied by 100. Pop that into your calculator and you would get 56.9%. Okay, so in terms of interpreting that answer, you would say that it is decreased by 56.9%. Okay. Right, so we're going to move on to percentage error. So this is something that's come up more recently on the eAssessments. However, they do give you the formula for this, okay? So you can see that it's got absolute value signs as well around this, okay? You always take the absolute value. The percentage error is an absolute value, okay? So when you are given a percentage error, if you're not told the two different values, let's say, for example, you're only told the actual, but it has, the estimated, but it has a percentage error of, say, 3%. It could be 3% either side of that amount, okay? Because remember, the absolute value takes the positive value. Okay, so you have to remember that it could have also been negative as well before the absolute value was applied. Okay, so here our question says a student estimated a mass to be 325 grams, but upon carefully measuring it, found the actual mass to be 342 grams. What is the percent error? Okay, so you just need to substitute into your formula. So make sure, of course, you get the two different values the right way round, okay? So here it's a little bit confusing in the sense that it says measured value and the true value, okay? The measured value in this case is the student's estimation, okay? So you want the absolute value of 325, subtract 342, all divided by 342, and then multiplied by 100. Okay, again, we just pop this into our calculator. If you don't have, in fact, sorry, no, on Desmos scientific calculator on the eAssessment, you do have absolute value. So just make sure you're familiar with how to find it or where to find it. Okay, but pop this into your calculator and you would come out with 4.97%. Okay, so that is a percentage error of 4.9%. Okay, so that's it for percentage error. We're just going to move on to an exam practice question. Now, the only sort of the difficulty, I suppose, with pulling out exam practice questions for percentages is they are often part of a much longer question. So I'll admit that this is probably not the best or most challenging percentage question that you may get, but I would advise you just to look through some past papers and pick out the percentage questions because they, like I say, they're often a sort of a small part or one of the end parts of a longer question. So without doing the parts previous, it doesn't really make much sense to just give you that question. Okay, right, so we'll look at this anyway. So here we've been given some information. We're responsible for making calculations for the recreational area of for a block of apartments, okay? We have a building maintenance budget. We have an annual fee of $1,400 per apartment. There's 90 apartments. We've got a pie chart to show how the budget is distributed. And then we are asked to determine the annual maintenance budget for the recreational area. Okay, so first things first, you actually need to know what the overall budget is that's available. Okay, so the annual fee is $1,400 and we know that there's 90 apartments. Okay, so my first calculation that I would want to do here is 1,400 multiplied by 90, which gives me $126,000. Okay, we then want to determine the budget for the recreational area. Okay, so you need to pick out the recreational area from this pie chart and what that represents. Okay, so that's 15% of the budget. We need to find 15% of $126,000. Okay, so this is what I mean by this not being the best example. This is quite a straightforward question for you. You would just need to change it to a decimal or just use 15% on your calculator, but 0.15 multiplied by 126,000 and you would get a final answer of $18,900. Okay, and that is it today. A very short and sweet lesson. Do let me know if you have any questions.